What if Ned Stark was willing to play the Game of Thrones? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Do you see this city, Ned? It's a viper's nest, every stone dripping with deceit. It's a far cry from Winterfell, isn't it? You're used to honest faces, open fields, a life lived under the gaze of the godswood. Here, the gods are whispers in the dark, and the wood is replaced by cold, unforgiving stone. Remember the journey south? You probably thought the greatest dangers lay in bandits or wild animals, perhaps a rogue storm on the King's Road. You were wrong. The real dangers were waiting for you here, behind gilded gates and smiling faces. Take a look around you, Ned. Observe the way people move, the way they talk, the way they look at you. That seemingly innocent glance? It's a calculation, that friendly smile, a mask. Every interaction is a transaction, a dance for power, a step closer to the Iron Throne. You arrive with your honor shining like a beacon, a man of the north amidst a den of wolves. You think your word is your bond, that truth and justice will prevail. You believe in the inherent goodness of people. You'll soon learn that those are weaknesses, Ned. Here, they are weaknesses to be exploited. Consider Jon Arryn. A good man, they say, a wise man, yet he's dead, poisoned by all accounts. Why? Because he stumbled upon something he shouldn't have. He asked the wrong questions, challenged the wrong people. He played the game with the rules of honor, and it cost him his life. Think of Littlefinger, amusing, isn't he? Witty, charming, always ready with a helpful word. But what lies beneath that facade? He's an information broker, Ned, a master manipulator. He trades in secrets, and secrets are power. He knows more about King's Landing than the king himself. And what of Varys, the spider? He whispers in the shadows, his little birds flitting through the Red Keep, gathering every scrap of gossip, every half-heard conversation. He claims to serve the realm, but who does he really serve? He has his own agenda, a game within the game. And you, Ned, are just a piece on his board. Then there's Cersei Lannister, beautiful, intelligent, ruthless. She's a lioness protecting her cubs, and she'll tear apart anyone who threatens them. She controls the gold, the guards, and arguably the king himself. Don't underestimate her, Ned. She's a formidable opponent, and Robert, your friend, your king, he brought you here because he trusts you, because he believes in your honesty. But Robert is lost, Ned. He's haunted by the past, drowning in wine and blind to the dangers that surround him. He wants to hunt, to feast, to relive the glory days. He doesn't want to rule. You see the problem, don't you? You're surrounded by schemers, liars, and murderers, and your friend is too drunk to notice. You've come to King's Landing to serve the realm, to uphold justice, but how can you do that when everyone is playing a different game with different rules? You thought your honor would be enough. You thought your reputation would protect you. You were wrong. Honor is a shield, Ned, but it's a brittle one. It shatters easily against the cold steel of ambition. Remember your conversation with Littlefinger. Is there someone in your service whom you trust completely? The wiser answer was, no, my lord. That should have been your first lesson. Trust no one, Ned. Not completely. Everyone has their own motives, their own secrets. You've been a warden of the North, a lord of Winterfell. You're used to loyalty, to respect, to the simple truths of a harsh land. But this is King's Landing, where nothing is simple and nothing is true. You were so eager to uncover the truth about Jon Arryn's death. Focused, driven, certain of your path. But you were like a lamb wandering into a wolf den, bleating for justice. While the wolves circled, waiting for the opportune moment to strike, you saw the eyes upon you, didn't you? The constant scrutiny, the silent judgment. You felt the weight of their gazes, the knowledge that you were being watched, assessed, manipulated. You're not comfortable here, are you? You long for the cold winds of the north, for the familiar. faces of your household for the safety of Winterfell. But you can't go back, Ned. Not now. You've seen too much. You know too much. Jon Arryn's death, the whispers of poison, the bastards Robert has seeded around the city, the cold glint in Cersei's eyes. It's all a puzzle, Ned, and you're missing key pieces. And what of this talk of the Dragon Queen and her child in the east? Threats loom from every side, but the most dangerous are right here in the Red Keep. You realize now that your honor alone isn't enough. You need allies, you need information, you need to learn the rules of this game. The Game of Thrones. Power isn't a sword, Ned. It's information. Knowledge is your weapon now. You need to know who to trust, who to fear, and how to use both to your advantage. The game is being played with or without you, and you're losing. You came to King's Landing with a sword and a name, but you need more than that. You need cunning. You need strategy. You need to be willing to do things you never thought yourself capable of. You've fallen behind, Ned. You're a step slower. It's time to adapt or die. This isn't the North. This is King's Landing, and here, only the players survive. It's time to learn to play and learn fast. You can't be the honorable fool any longer. You must learn to navigate the treacherous currents of the court, to weave your own webs of deceit, to protect yourself and those you care about. The game has begun. It's time to learn the rules, find some allies, and play to win. It's time to become a player, Ned Stark, a player in the Game of Thrones. You're not ready for this, but you will be. You have to be. The Hand doesn't leave his chamber for the rest of the night. Instead, he remains there, planning and considering his next move. He reviews every conversation, every observation, every suspicion he has. He sees patterns, connections, and potential dangers that he missed before. He thinks of Littlefinger's words, Varys's whispers, Cersei's coldness. He thinks of Jon Arryn's fate and Robert's blindness. He knows he can't trust anyone completely. He knows he needs allies. He considers his options. Who can he trust? Who can he rely on? Who can he use? When he emerges the next morning, he has a strategy. He knows he can't win this game alone. He needs to forge alliances, to gather support, to build a network of trust in a city where trust is a rare commodity. The game has begun, and he has fallen behind, but he's not out of it yet. He's still learning the ropes, but he's a quick study. He's Ned Stark, Warden of the North, and he's not going down without a fight. He may be in a snake pit, but even snakes can be hunted. The first person to come to mind is Littlefinger. He seems eager enough and more knowledgeable about the court than anyone in Ned's court. But that is also why he dismisses him. He has all the information and seems a bit too eager to share it, as well as to ask Ned about his research. More importantly, he lacks any principles. Ned must play the game, but he will not work with just anyone. Besides Lord Baelish, there are two other people he considers. Sir Barristan. He is respected, admired in court, serves in the small council, and is always close with the king. And Renly, while he might have his disagreements with the youngest Baratheon, he is certain of one thing. They both want the Baratheon rule to continue, and that means he can rely on him up until a certain point. They want the same thing for... Now those are his first targets. He'll need to get those two on his side, and then he might stand a chance in this viper's nest. The game has begun, and Ned has fallen behind, and he must learn the ropes. That is why he must gather allies. The first person to come to mind isn't Littlefinger. He is too eager to share information and lacks principles. Ned must play the game, but he will not work with just anyone. Besides Lord Baelish, there are two other people he considers. Sir Barristan, who is respected, admired in court, serves on the small council, and is always close to the king. And Renly, while he might have his disagreements with the youngest Baratheon, he is certain of one thing. They both want the Baratheon rule to continue, and that means he can rely on him up until a certain point. Before he heads to the small council, Chambers, Ned first visits Sir Barristan in the White Sword Tower, where he finds the knight dressing himself in his armor. Do you require some assistance there, sir? Lord Stark, I was donning my armor since your mother was first swaddling you, but these old bones appreciate the assistance. Ned chuckles and moves to begin strapping the knight's breastplate. You've been protecting the king for 15 years now. Sir, I must commend you on your efforts. Robert still hasn't managed to drink himself to death, to his great dismay it would seem. But he gets closer, I shall admit. And yet, part of me feels it's not only his doing and that someone is pushing him. What makes you say that? Have you heard something being planned? No, nothing like that. Perhaps I am simply being paranoid, given the recent incident regarding John, Arryn, and my son. But I came to ask for your help. I would sleep much better knowing that someone is keeping an eye on the king. I am always watching the king, indeed. But if you were to catch a hint of something, no matter how small, do not hesitate to tell me. Or if you have suspicions about anyone in court. I have suspicions about half the court, my lord. If I were to tell you, we would be here all day. I would like to hear them. You have been here longer than I. Your knowledge would be most beneficial. Very well, Lord Hand. You have my word that I shall keep my eyes open. Keep my eyes open. And just like that, Ned gains his first ally. But he soon approaches Renly after the meeting, helping him clean up the table. Lord Renly, I noticed the king has found himself some squires. Fair-haired ones indeed, cousins of the queen. She insists they must be given opportunities to advance. 7 knows how many more of them she might have in Castle Rock, a damnably large family. The guards too, judging by the style of their armor, and the servants, the gold thread in their clothing. It seems she has been diligent in filling up the Red Keep with her household, and yet I don't see any of your cousins. Where is Sir Arryn and his family? Surely Lord Estermont would be delighted to see a few of his kin serving in court. Even your brother Stannis has made himself scarce. But I ask myself that every day, Lord Stark. It seems like the Lannisters have an allergy to stags, judging by the way Cersei looks at her dear husband. But why is it you ask? It was just something I had noticed since my arrival here. It was some time since I've been to court, and the last time I was here, it was full of Robert's bannermen. Perhaps I'm simply being paranoid. Perhaps you are. But it is nice to discuss these issues with me, and perhaps we can find ways to address it. Indeed, and ensure that the crown stays with the Baratheons, not the Lannisters. Renly gives him a conspiratorial smile, and Ned tries his best to mimic it. Though they do not say it outright, the two come to an understanding. It is in both of their interests to keep the Baratheons in power. With these two alliances, Ned now begins searching for ways to challenge Lannister rule. Renly and Sir Barristan both give him names of those they deem potential allies, the likes of Loras Tyrell, Balon Swan, Eris Oakheart, and the Redwine twins, as those they can safely count on their side. There are others whom they are less certain about. Pycelle and Littlefinger both seem helpful, but they all agree they cannot be fully trusted. The same is true for Sandor Clegane and Meryn Trant, and others, like the rest of the King's Guard. Varys and much of the household cannot be trusted. Ned works to rectify that. He asks Renly to help shore up support and gather allies. He is charming and well-liked by commoners and nobles alike, so he tries to win over the Crown lands. Meanwhile, Sir Barristan uses his position as Lord Commander of the King's Guard to limit Cersei's reach. The less trustworthy Kingsguard are kept in less important positions, or to guard the royal children, keeping them distant from Robert and Ned's allies, so they're less able to spy on them. As the Hands tournament comes in, Ned appoints a group of his men to assist the Goldcloaks in maintaining the peace. While they do just that, he also tasks them to keep their eyes open for any suspicious activity, as well as to reach out to the officers in the City Watch and try to win them over. Meanwhile, Ned continues to serve as Hand, reviewing the notes that Jon Arryn had left behind. These include his investigation, but also issues he'd had with other individuals, like Janos Slint, Sir Preston Greenfield, and other members of the court, which could be valuable as blackmail. At the same time, Renly introduces him to potential allies, having him sit and ride with them so they can win them over. Soon, Ned focuses his attention on Pycelle and tries to determine whether he is a truly reliable ally or not. During one summer day, he brings forth a rumor he's heard, how one of the guards on the Red Keep's battlements has spotted the knight riding out in the dead of night, supposedly to visit a paramour in the city. Ned expresses his concern at this violation of his vows and suggests that the knight be watched and stripped of his white cloak if found to be true. Of course, he emphasizes the need for secrecy here, which Pycelle agrees with. But of course, Lord Stark, I must advise caution. The duties of governance are as delicate as they are weighty. Such matters can create tension in the court between you and the knight. I appreciate your counsel, Maester. I wonder, though, have you heard anything of Sir Preston Greenfield lately? No, I have not. A scandal, if real, but I would urge restraint. Rumors in King's Landing are like wildfire, easily sparked, hard to contain, and yet that night, Sir Barristan calls him. His sworn brother often slips out of the Red Keep at night. Though he pretends to sleep, Barristan hears him leave. The guards that Pycelle posted on the battlements all watch him go, then later claim they saw nothing that night. With that, Ned has his proof and advises his allies not to accept treatment from Pycelle, and that they would be wise to keep a Maester in their employ. Soon enough, a young Maester is added to his household, where he receives firm instructions that no one should be allowed to treat him save for that man, and tell no one. If they ask, you were summoned to tend to the horses. Meanwhile, Renly continues his recruitment campaign. While the nobles have all largely picked sides, he spreads his efforts for those in the city. There are many people he reaches out to, septons, merchants, and other wealthy citizens. More importantly, those who had lived through the Lannister sack of the city. There, he finds many eager ears willing to listen as he works his magic and charms them. Laughter is shared, gifts are given, and promises of investments are made for their support. Robert has always been most generous with the crown's coffers. Meanwhile, the Lannisters stingily demand that their kin pay off their debts to him. Those words seem to get their interest, and many offer what help they can, whether it be connections, finances, or manpower. In particular, they promise to keep a close watch on the city streets and inform them of Lannister sentiment. But after one visit to a sept, the septon in command bows his head to Renly. You know, my lord, it is not just we learned men who are unsatisfied with Lannister rule. There are others, those among the commoners, who might be willing to help and who recall the sack just as well, if they are assisted as well. Renly smiles and thanks him for this information, which he relays to Ned. The Hand immediately gets to work and starts using his influence to assist them. After the tourney, he has coins found to provide them with bread to keep the prices stable and assigns more patrols in less safe areas to reduce crime. It also allows him to get less trustworthy officers further from the Red Keep, and yet there are things that even he cannot back no matter what. And that comes to show when they learn Daenerys is pregnant. As Ned hears this, the Targaryen is pregnant. You're speaking of murdering a child. Hear me now. I want them dead, mother and child both. I want them both dead. You'll dishonor yourself. Forever if you do this. Honor, I've got 7 kingdoms to rule. 1 king, 7 kingdoms, fear and blood. Then we're no better than the Mad King. Careful, Ned. Careful now. You want to assassinate a girl because the spider heard a rumor. He is disgusted and shakes his head when he speaks. It isn't just Robert he is referring to. It is his actions, his fears of what this is requiring of him. Because of that, he refuses to budge, even as the rest of the small council urges otherwise. When they vote, he throws his badge to the ground and shakes his head, announcing he will have no part in it. And yet he cannot stay away for long, as Littlefinger entices him with a rumor, a brothel that Robert frequented, and where Jon Arryn had gone before he died. As expected, this is too much for Ned to ignore, and he rides out. However, he comes with a sizable contingent of men, half a dozen Stark guards, and a small gaggle of sellswords he had recruited, and there he meets with one of the women Robert had slept with and sired a bastard with. It was just like the other places he had visited, and yet he still could not put it together. Robert had multiple bastards in the city, that much was true, but he remained unable to fully grasp what this meant. Was Jon Arryn perhaps trying to raise one of these children as heir, or simply keeping tabs on them in case something were to happen? These thoughts continue to run through his mind as he makes his way out of the brothel. That is, until Ser Jaime arrives with a group of Lannister men larger than his own. Ned's troops perform a protective circle around him as they prepare to meet the Lannister men. The Kingslayer demands the release of Tyrion, but Ned warns him, if any harm comes to him, his brother is a dead man. That does not stop Jaime from trying to kill his men. In an instant, the two sides are upon each other, swords and daggers flashing. Jaime cuts through one of the sellswords with ease while fighting breaks out around him. His men fight well, and several of the Lannister men go down. Thinking quickly, Ned decides to take a gamble and raises his head. People of the city, your hand is in danger. The Kingslayer has gone mad. This seems to get people's attention. While many choose to run and save themselves, others are spurred into action. A few small folk throw bits of food, and a nearby merchant orders his guards to join the fight. Soon, others begin to shout curses and rush forward. There aren't many, but it adds to the chaos and allows the Stark men to regain the upper hand. Seeing the battle turn against them, Jaime tries to ride away, but Ned does not let him go. In this matter, he is an expert. This is a fight, and taking Jaime alive is the best way to win. 100 gold dragons to whomever brings him back alive. I want him to stand trial for what he did. The sellswords all mount up and ride after him. But now they are joined by a swarm of people who gather whatever weapons they have and hurry after. The city soon becomes a street fight, as people are not keen on letting the Kingslayer go. Some recall how he and his family sacked their city, and that anger burns bright. As he runs, he is met with curses and jeers. His guards are pulled down one by one until he is alone. But he is far from helpless prey. Dozens of people fall before his sword or are trampled beneath the hooves of his horse. However, a man from the roof of one of the buildings picks up a tile and throws it at him. It strikes the Kingslayer on the shoulder and leaves him tumbling off his horse. Almost instantly, sellswords and small folk are upon him, kicking and cursing. One steps on his hand to prevent him from getting his sword, and soon he's dragged back to Ned, who gives them their reward. So I assume this means you're taking me back to the Red Keep, where you can hide under your sister's skirts? No, take him to the city prison and keep him there. Stark guards lead him away, but as he departs, a beggar approaches Ned and says he saw a young man leaving the brothel through a back door after he had arrived. The hand nods his head and discreetly slips a gold dragon into his fingers before leaving. When he returns to the Red Keep, Ned quickly gets to work, trying to prepare for the backlash. He quickly sends word for a ship to be prepared to take his daughters and most of his household back north. Meanwhile, he ensures that the guards in the prison are men loyal to him, as well as reminding Commander Janos Slynt that he is aware of his corruption and would be wise not to make him revisit them. Word does eventually get out, and Cersei is furious. She demands the release of both of her brothers, with Tywin threatening war. However, the Goldcloaks refuse to budge and claim they are under strict orders by Ned not to let them go. Robert is exhausted to hear this and tries to convince Ned to let him go. All right, Ned, you've made your point. The Kingslayer will think twice before he tries a stunt like that again. In the north, when a man tries something like this, he is sent to the wall. Have things changed so much in the south that that is no longer an issue? My brother is no common criminal that you can dismiss like that. He is a Lannister and a knight of the Kingsguard, which is precisely why I cannot simply release him. Knights are meant to carry themselves with dignity and be above such things. Lord Stark speaks truly. He is a member of the Kingsguard. His duty was to protect the king. How did he do that? By attacking the Hand. The man disgraced himself by behaving like this. I would personally strip him of his white cloak if he were released. All right, that's enough out of both of you. Here are my orders. If you want to strip him of his white cloak, that's fine by me, but I intend to go hunting, and when I get back, I expect him to be out of prison, and whatever issues you have between you two, settle them. Understand? Just as he says, Robert leaves later that day for the sanctuary of the Kingswood. As Ned's investigation into Jon Arryn's death deepens, he finds himself navigating a labyrinth of secrets and lies, each revelation more disturbing than the last. The truth, it seems, is a dangerous commodity in King's Landing. He starts by revisiting the small council meetings, scrutinizing the subtle cues, the unspoken tensions. He replays conversations in his mind, searching for the hidden meanings, the veiled threats, and the more he looks, the more he sees: the Queen's nervous glances, Littlefinger's sly smiles, Varys's unsettlingly calm demeanor. Each a piece of the puzzle, but none of them quite fitting together. His inquiries take him to the city's underbelly, the shadowy alleys and dimly lit taverns, where secrets are whispered and deals are made. He discreetly questions informants, merchants, even the common folk, piecing together fragments of information about Jon Arryn's final days, and the picture that emerges is unsettling. Arryn was asking questions about the king's children, about their parentage, questions that apparently someone didn't want answered. The breakthrough comes unexpectedly. A whispered conversation overheard in a brothel, a place Arryn was known to frequent. A name mentioned almost in passing, Gendry. Ned recognizes the name, one of Robert's bastards, a blacksmith's apprentice. He visits the forge, observes the boy, and sees a striking resemblance to the king, a resemblance conspicuously absent in Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. He delves deeper, poring over the histories of the great houses, focusing on descriptions of the Baratheon lineage. The words leap from the page: black of hair, strong of jaw. Traits that Robert possessed in abundance, and that his supposed heirs conspicuously lack. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen are not Robert's children. They are the offspring of incest between Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime. The implications are staggering. The entire kingdom rests on a foundation of lies. The Baratheon dynasty is built on a false claim, and the true heir to the Iron Throne is Stannis. But the revelation is not enough. He needs proof, irrefutable evidence to present to Robert, to the small council, to the realm. He resumes his investigation, meticulously gathering information, corroborating stories, building an airtight case. This leads him back to Littlefinger, a man he distrusts but recognizes as a necessary evil. Baelish possesses a wealth of information, much of it gleaned from the city's brothels, and he's willing to share it for a price. Ned, with increasing reluctance, pays that price, trading favors and promises for the details he needs. Littlefinger confirms Arryn's investigation into the royal children's parentage, revealing that Arryn had discovered the truth shortly before his death. The truth about Jon Arryn's death is poison at the order of Cersei Lannister to hide the truth. With the evidence mounting, Ned confronts Robert, presenting him with the facts, the lineage charts, the testimonies, the undeniable truth about his children's parentage. Robert is initially incredulous, dismissing the claims as slanderous whispers. But as Ned presses him, As he presents the evidence, Robert's denial begins to crumble. The truth, once resisted, now seeps into his consciousness, poisoning his mind. The revelation throws Robert into a rage. He lashes out, cursing Cersei, cursing Jaime, cursing the gods themselves. He demands vengeance, immediate and brutal. But Ned urges caution, reminding Robert that they need to act strategically to secure their position before revealing the truth to the realm. He suggests a carefully planned investigation, a public trial to expose the Lannisters' treachery. Their discussion is interrupted by news of Daenerys Targaryen's pregnancy. Robert, consumed by paranoia and fear, orders her assassination, seeing her as a threat to his reign. Ned is appalled. He refuses to condone the murder of a pregnant woman, arguing that it would be a dishonorable act, a stain on Robert's legacy. This disagreement escalates into a bitter argument, a clash of ideologies. Robert, driven by fear and a thirst for power, is willing to sacrifice his honor for the sake of the realm. Ned, bound by his principles, refuses to compromise his morality, even if it means defying the king. Their conflict reaches a boiling point. Ned resigns from his position as Hand of the King, declaring that he cannot serve a ruler who is willing to commit such an atrocity. He prepares to return to Winterfell, to distance himself and his family from the corrupting influence of kings. Landing, but before he can leave, he receives a visit from Littlefinger, who reveals that Cersei is planning to arrest him, to silence him permanently. Littlefinger offers Ned a way out, a chance to escape the city with his daughters. But Ned, unwilling to abandon his principles, refuses to flee. He decides to confront Cersei, to expose her treachery and protect his family. He gathers his men, prepares for a confrontation, but before he can act, he's ambushed by Jaime Lannister and his guards. The battle is swift and brutal. Ned's men are outnumbered and outmatched. He himself is wounded, his leg broken in the melee. Jaime, emboldened by his victory, gloats over Ned, mocking his honor, his naivete. He reveals the full extent of the Lannisters' conspiracy, their plot to seize control of the Iron Throne. Ned, despite his pain and his predicament, refuses to be intimidated. He challenges Jaime, accusing him of treason, vowing to expose his crimes to the realm. But Jaime dismisses Ned's threats, declaring that no one will believe him, that the Lannisters are too powerful, too entrenched in the court. He prepares to deliver the final blow, to silence Ned forever. Before Jaime can carry out his threat, however, the fighting is interrupted. The City Watch, alerted to the commotion, arrives on the scene. Commander Janos Slynt, ostensibly loyal to the king, orders the arrest of Jaime Lannister for attacking the Hand of the King. Jaime, caught off guard, is taken into custody, his plans thwarted. Ned, wounded and imprisoned, finds himself in a precarious situation. He's a prisoner of the Lannisters, his life hanging in the balance. But his capture is not without consequences. Robert, upon hearing of the attack on his hand, is furious. He demands justice, the immediate punishment of Jaime Lannister. Ned, recognizing an opportunity, uses his captivity to his advantage. He sends a message to Robert demanding a trial for Jaime, a public airing of the Lannisters' crimes. He knows that exposing the truth about Joffrey's parentage would destabilize the realm, potentially sparking a civil war. But he believes that it's the only way to cleanse the court of corruption, to restore honor and justice to the kingdom. Robert, torn between his loyalty to Cersei and his anger at Jaime, hesitates. He's reluctant to condemn his wife, to expose her treachery to the world, but he also recognizes the gravity of the situation, the threat that the Lannisters pose to his reign. Their conflict escalates into a full-blown crisis, dividing the court, threatening to tear the kingdom apart. Ned, imprisoned and isolated, finds himself at the center of the storm, a pawn in a Game of Thrones that he never wanted to play. The capture of Jaime Lannister throws the Red Keep into turmoil. Cersei rages, demanding her brother's release and threatening war if her demands are not met. Robert, torn between his wife and his hand, attempts to mediate, but his efforts only exacerbate the situation. Ned, confined to a cell in the city dungeons, becomes a symbol of resistance against the Lannister regime. The small folk, weary of the Lannisters' greed and arrogance, rally to his cause, whispering tales of his honor and justice. Renly, sensing an opportunity to gain power, begins to consolidate his forces, subtly undermining Cersei's influence within the Red Keep. He whispers doubts into Robert's ear, fueling his suspicions about Cersei's loyalty. Ser Barristan, disgusted by the Lannisters' treachery, quietly lends his support to Ned, providing him with information and discreetly protecting his daughters. He sees Ned as a man of honor, a beacon of hope in a corrupt court. As tensions escalate, the city becomes a powder keg, ready to explode. The Lannisters, desperate to retain their power, plot and scheme, seeking to undermine Ned and seize control of the Iron Throne. Ned's isolation from Robert grows with each passing day. Cersei effectively cuts off communication, poisoning Robert's mind with lies and half-truths. Robert, increasingly dependent on wine and flattery, becomes a puppet in Cersei's hands. Despite his isolation, Ned refuses to be silenced. He continues to gather evidence, to expose the Lannisters' crimes using whatever means available to him. He knows that the truth is his only weapon, his only hope of saving the realm. And the stage is set for a final decisive confrontation, a battle for the soul of the kingdom. A game has been begun, but the rules have been changed. Ned is no longer just playing along. He is the player and determiner for the fate of the game. By the hour of dusk, another raven takes flight. Elsewhere, the wind shifts. Across the city, Renly Baratheon convenes with several merchants, sellsword captains, minor knights, and even septums. The rumors of Jaime's imprisonment have stirred something long dormant. The king's brother begins gathering swords. The games have begun, and now it is time to discover its winner. The fire crackles in the hearth. Ned Stark studies a map of the Red Keep, fingers tracing through halls and passages. He's thinner than before, eyes darker, harder. Across from him, Renly paces. "Are you sure the Goldcloaks will side with us? Not all, but enough. I've made it clear to Janos Slynt that I'm aware of his previous issues, and I provided his officers with a generous reward." Stark is bribing someone. "Next, you'll tell me the White Walkers are coming. A man shouldn't be bribed to do the right thing, but my man in Robert's hunting party said they nabbed a boar and are starting to make their way back. Then we go before dawn. Strike hard, strike clean." The sky glows faintly purple. Stark and Baratheon. Men pour into the courtyard. The gates are already under their control, thanks to Ned's careful planning and quiet deals with the guards. They move with urgency, but not panic. The double doors crash open. Stark and Baratheon men flood into the hall. Cersei stands at the base of the Iron Throne, a hand on Joffrey's shoulder. Ser Boros and Ser Meryn step forward, but they're too slow. Renly's knights and northern swords close the distance fast. The Lannister guards form a defensive circle around them. What is the meaning of this? You swore to protect and serve the king. That is what I'm doing. I'm protecting the realm from your lies. I know the truth. You have lied to the king, kept the true parentage of Joffrey a secret. He is not of Robert's loins, but of your brother. Lies. Madness. He speaks madness. He's mad. Stop them. The nearest guard who approaches is cut down before he can react. Joffrey shrieks and fighting breaks out. Steel clashes echo through the halls. Ser Meryn Trant slashes through a guard and his sworn brothers rush forward, all saved for Ser Aerys, who was told by Ser Barristan of this ahead of time. He rushes to try and apprehend Joffrey, Yet as he reaches out to grab his cloak, a sword flashes, and the knight screams as his arm is severed at the elbow. The hound grunts and roughly grabs the prince by his shoulder to lead him away. Yale, across the Red Keep, fighting breaks out as guardsmen, knights, and men-at-arms from both sides join the fighting. While Renly and Ned do not personally command many men, their allies rush to support them. Meanwhile, Cersei and her forces were reinforced by sellswords hired by Littlefinger. The fighting spills into the streets, ambushing patrols. Fighting erupts in Flea Bottom, and parts of the city begin to burn. But the tide begins to turn when the Goldcloaks rally to restore order. Janos Slynt rides with 100 men to support the Starks, while the rest move through the streets, breaking up fights and arresting anyone suspected of aiding the Lannisters. The fiercest of this fighting happens when Preston Greenfield and 24 men try to storm the prison and free Ser Jaime. They find the Goldcloaks hostile, and the fight is fierce, but at last the knight is killed after someone drives his spear through his chest. Soon, Ned and Renly's banners rise over the Red Keep. Cersei is captured, but Joffrey remains locked up in the royal quarters, guarded by the Hound and a small group of loyalists. Sir Loras rides up and approaches the gate. "I've come to speak to the Hound. I was sent here to negotiate terms on behalf of Lord Renly. I offer a pardon to you and all of your men if you hand over." "The prince, bugger your terms. You don't frighten me. And if I don't frighten you, then let's settle this man to man. I see a pardon isn't enough for you. What about revenge? We don't need you to sheath your sword just to turn it on someone more deserving. Your brother. You want me to kill Gregor? Would prefer you help me while I heroically kill him. But yes, that would be acceptable too. He burns the Riverlands. You know the truth about him better than anyone. He's a mad dog in need of being put down, and if I do, I want free. Freedom, gold, and a chance to kill Lannisters. Done. Just don't get in my way." And with that, the Hound commands the gate be opened. Any men-at-arms who refuse are cut down, and by the time Renly appears, the lion banners have been torn down. The youngest Baratheon smiles as he approaches Ned Stark after the battle. A fine victory, if I do say so myself. Now the only question remains, what do we tell Robert? In truth, the Lannisters have been plotting behind his back, and we need to put a stop to it. We present the evidence we've gathered and let justice take its course. Yes, that is all well and good, but situations like this tend to raise questions such as succession. Without Joffrey, Robert has no legitimate heir, but with your backing, you could convince him to name me heir. And why would I do that? Stannis is the legal heir. Stannis wasn't here when the fighting happened, and it wasn't him or his men who fought and died here. It was us, and yet he's here now. As he says that, he points out to Blackwater Bay, where a fleet appears on the horizon. Baratheon sails, black with a red heart. I held the city. I bled for it. Robert should name me heir. Stannis inspires no one. He'll never hold the realm. I've already sent word to Stannis. He is Robert's brother, and by law and blood the rightful heir. He'll hold it with my support and yours, if you're wise. We can only muster the City Watch, but Stannis has worked with Jon Arryn to uncover the incest. If we do not support him, it would reflect badly on us. We will be no better than usurpers. What do you propose? Stannis will become heir if Robert deems it so. You will retain a seat on the small council, Storm's End, under your rule. But I will ensure you were adequately rewarded for this. The Westerlands will be badly hurt by this war, and it might require someone to help rebuild it. That was indeed a tempting prospect. The Westerlands were the wealthiest region, and if he could secure the Reach, it would leave him with half the 7 kingdoms in his pocket. It wasn't kingship, but it was a crucial step. I'll consider it for the good of the realm. When Stannis arrives, his men quickly move to secure the city. They help the Goldcloaks restore order. They are not just watchmen, but trained soldiers. who makes short work of any holdouts. Within hours, the city is firmly under Baratheon control. Stannis is surprised to see Renly with Ned, but Ned holds up the letter which the Hand had sent soon before. "I received your letter, so you know the truth. We saw Jon Arryn's notes, and the Queen and the Kingslayer may soon confess, given enough time. But Robert does not know, figures he'd be the last. All right then, I hope this means that we are clear about this. Given that his children are all illegitimate, this makes me Robert's legal heir." Ned nods, and Renly grits his teeth but accepts. While King's Landing might be theirs, the Lannister army is still on the march. By now, they had defeated the Riverlands and could march on King's Landing at any time. With Stannis' forces, they can at least hold the walls and rally more of the Crownlands, but they will require Robert's support when the king returns to the capital after his hunt. He finds it drastically different than when he left it. At first, he can hardly make sense of everything that has happened. All the claims they made were even more ridiculous than the last. A conspiracy in court, private armies, and incest. And yet, each one speaks of them so firmly, so concisely, that it is clear that they either all planned their statements or that they agree on the same thing. Robert can see no other way than this being the truth. If it were anyone else, I would have considered it madness. And yet all three of you seem so certain it is the truth, Robert. Jon Arryn himself wrote about it in his notes. He suspected something was off. Well, then I suppose there will be time to look into that. We must first deal with the Lannisters. In that all three agree, and they begin formulating a plan. By now, Tywin is marching his army across the Riverlands, which have been pounded into submission. He brings with him close to 30,000 swords against their combined might of 10,000. It looks to be an uphill battle, but that is where Renly comes in. With Cersei and her children imprisoned and the Red Keep under firm control, Ned, Renly and Stannis gather in the Tower of the Hand. Outside the window, the city simmers. Riots are dying down. The Goldcloaks, now under loyal command, patrol the streets with more discipline than ever before. Yet they must prepare for Tywin, who now turns his full force to confront them. From the Green Fork, his army marches eastward, aiming to strike at King's Landing. Towns have been burnt. Lords loyal to the Tullys are scattering. If Tywin reaches the Crownlands, he will have enough momentum to lay siege to King's Landing. The scattered river lords wage a desperate guerrilla war, but this does little to slow them, and many are just happy to see them go. Ned listens carefully to the scout's words, his face grim. Their own combined strength barely reaches 10,000, even with the allies Stannis and Robert raised from the Crownlands. But Renly is already moving. He sends riders south and west, reaching out to the Lords of the Reach. Highgarden has no love for the Lannisters, but old blood feuds still linger from Robert's rebellion. With careful language and promises of glory, Renly convinces them to ride under his banner. In return, he promises to press for certain titles and tax reforms in King's Landing, and to push for Margaery Tyrell as a marriage candidate. At the same time, Stannis begins preparing the city's defenses. He commands the engineers to reinforce the gates and outer walls, oversees the storage of food, and drills the garrison relentlessly. Robert visits the Goldcloaks and recruits Sellswards. He assures flagging lords of his strengths and promises them victory. Though he might not be much of a warrior now, he's still the same fiery man these lords knew in their youth, and they believe him. But this plan stuns them. They let Tywin come. As the Lannister host pushes eastward, burning through the Riverlands, with little resistance, the city of King's Landing braces. Stannis draws Tywin in close, retreating in stages, never breaking, but always yielding ground. Skirmishes and ambushes slow the Lannister advance, but never halt it. He detaches portions of her army to ambush their outriders and pull men aside. Every move is calculated to stretch Tywin's supply lines and weaken his knights' morale. and to keep news from reaching the west. The banners of the Reach rise high. House Redwine sails up the coast and landsmen at Fair Isle. House Florent and House Tarly march through the southern passes and descend from the Westerlands as part of the vanguard. Meanwhile, Mace Tyrell personally commands the main host. He seizes Craighall and then marches towards Silverhill, while Lannisport is placed under siege. With Tywin having taken nearly all his strength east, the city defenses crumble. Randyll Tarly rides at the head of the invasion, his banners flying. Beside the golden rows of House Tyrell, they happily help themselves to the golden crops left over and haul them back south. Tywin's bannermen, now leaderless and confused, bend the knee or scatter into the hills. When word reaches Tywin, his army is already at the wall of King's Landing. He is preparing for the siege, setting ladders, constructing siege towers, and directing mining operations under the castle. He is surrounded by the finest knights in Westeros, yet more isolated than ever. His banners are far from home, his lands occupied. News comes that Lannisport is about to fall under Baratheon authority. And worse, Casterly Rock is being sealed and left vulnerable. He prepares to march west, but that would mean abandoning the siege and risking being attacked on the way back. There are even reports that Robert has already called his Stormlanders to begin massing at Bronzegate. This will mean a fight regardless. If he can take the capital, it would mean an end to the war. But even that is far from guaranteed, and his army will doubtlessly take heavy losses. If he is to fight other battles, then he may get destroyed either way. The battle is simply too risky, so instead a truce is offered. He may keep his titles. House Lannister will retain Casterly Rock, but his children, Cersei and Jaime, are to be executed for their crimes, including the attempted coup and the secret of Joffrey's illegitimacy. In return, Renly will administer Lannisport as Warden of the West under the Baratheon crown. Tywin's influence, while preserved in name, will be stripped in practice. For the first time in memory, Tywin faces defeat he cannot avenge. The Riverlands are ruined, but their lords are reassembling and preparing to fight back and leaving his path cut off. His bannermen weakened, and with the Stormlands massing in the south, any attempt to break the siege will cost him everything. Even victory would leave him too crippled to resist another force. He agrees. Cersei and Jaime are executed in the capital the next day. Both are beheaded. Ned ensures it is done quickly, without spectacle, to preserve Lannister honor. Joffrey, too young to stand trial, is sent to the Wall in exile. In the aftermath, Renly is named Lord of Lannisport and Warden of the West. More importantly, he pushes for Margaery's marriage to Robert, which the king reluctantly agrees to, helping him down the line. Stannis is officially recognized as heir. Ned remains his hand, determined to rebuild the kingdom in Robert's name. The game has changed, but for once, the realm breathes easier.